Dear friends, welcome to another episode of Military Realm. In this video, we will discuss Donald Trump's proposal for the establishment of a demilitarized zone between Russia and Ukraine, a strip spanning nearly 1,300 kilometers, which would be patrolled by European NATO members, particularly British forces. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any updates. To begin, let's delve into the elements that make up Trump's proposal. According to inside sources on his team, this initiative isn't merely a vague concept, but a relatively well-defined plan. It includes the creation of a demilitarized zone approximately 1,300 kilometers in length, separating territories controlled by Russia and Ukraine. This strip would be patrolled and maintained by European troops, with a notable presence of British forces. But it could also include contributions from German, French, and Polish forces. One striking element is the complete exclusion of American troops from this effort, reflecting Trump's philosophy of limiting direct U.S. involvement in foreign conflicts and instead shifting the responsibility to European allies. The plan proposes that, in exchange for maintaining this buffer zone, Ukraine would commit to not pursuing NATO membership for a period of 20 years. This clause is particularly sensitive and has profound implications, as the possibility of joining the Western military alliance has always been seen by Kyiv as essential protection against future Russian aggression. Under this new structure, Ukraine would be urged to give up this formal security in exchange for a peace that many view as fragile and potentially unstable. Another crucial point is the role of the United States in this arrangement. According to members of Trump's team, his administration would be willing to continue providing arms to Ukraine, but only on the condition that the war does not resume. However, the full responsibility for funding and managing the demilitarized zone would rest exclusively on the European allies. This stance raises important questions about the extent to which Europeans would be willing to accept this new burden and how it would influence NATO's cohesion. Now, let's consider this proposal in a broader context. The war in Ukraine, which began in 2014 with Russia's annexation of Crimea and escalated in 2022 with a full-scale invasion, has become a central issue in European and global security policy. Trump's proposal arises at a time when Ukraine's front lines are constantly shifting, with reports of advances and retreats on both sides. The establishment of a demilitarized zone could theoretically freeze the conflict in a stalemate, but it would also solidify Moscow's territorial gains. For Ukraine, this proposal represents a painful choice. Renouncing NATO membership for 2 decades means relinquishing one of its main protections against future aggression. Volodymyr Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, has already spoken firmly against any territorial concessions to Vladimir Putin, describing them as unacceptable and even suicidal for European security. This reaction is understandable because, for Kyiv, peace based on imposed concessions would be perceived as a sign of weakness and could undermine the morale of both the population and the armed forces. Trump's proposal also places European countries in a challenging position. Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, has been an outspoken advocate for greater European autonomy in security matters. In a recent speech, he emphasized that Europe should not indefinitely rely on the United States for its security. This sentiment aligns with Trump's proposal to transfer responsibility to European powers, but it also highlights the practical and financial limitations of this approach. While Europe has pledged to support Ukraine as long as necessary, it faces significant economic and logistical challenges in sustaining such an extensive peacekeeping operation without American participation. Reactions to Trump's proposal have been varied, reflecting the complexities of the current international landscape. Dr. Russell Foster, an expert in international politics at King's College, argued that Trump's proposal, though bold, highlights an important point. Europe has underinvested in its defense capabilities for decades, relying heavily on the security umbrella provided by the United States. Foster notes that without a robust industrial base and strong military infrastructure, Europe is not prepared to independently handle a responsibility of this magnitude. This lack of preparation would pose a significant obstacle to implementing an effective demilitarized zone patrolled exclusively by European forces. Ed Arnold, a senior researcher in European security, adds that maintaining military and humanitarian support for Ukraine without U.S. involvement would be enormously costly for Europe. He points out that the continent would need to explore different mechanisms, such as NATO, the European Union, or bilateral agreements, to sustain this operation. However, each of these options would bring its own political and financial challenges. The impact of this proposal, if implemented, could extend beyond Europe's borders. A potential U.S. withdrawal from direct military support and Europe's reliance on its own forces could be seen by other powers, such as China, as a signal of weakening Western unity. This perception could encourage more assertive actions against other regions, like Taiwan, where China seeks to expand its influence. One of the most troubling implications of this proposal is its potential impact on NATO cohesion. The alliance, a pillar of transatlantic security since its founding, is now facing a moment of testing. Trump's proposal to limit the U.S. role and shift responsibility to European allies could trigger a reassessment of America's commitment to the organization. While a complete U.S. withdrawal from NATO is unlikely due to legislation that requires a two-thirds majority in the Senate for such a move, even the perception of partial disengagement could have highly negative consequences. Military analyst Kirgilis, a specialist in Russian affairs, warned that Trump's plan could be viewed as catastrophic for its potentially destabilizing effects. If the United States significantly reduces its support for Ukraine, it would pressure European countries to increase their defense spending amid economic stagnation. This pressure could deepen internal divisions within Europe, as countries with limited economic capacity, such as those in the southern region, would struggle to keep up with the necessary defense investments. Additionally, the proposal could weaken NATO's legitimacy by demonstrating that in times of crisis, the United States prefers an isolationist approach. This, in turn, could create opportunities for other powers like China and Russia to expand their influence. On the Ukrainian side, Trump's proposal has predictably met with resistance. Zelensky has made it clear that any solution involving territorial loss or concessions to Russia is unacceptable. For the Ukrainian president, yielding to Russian demands, even under the pretense of immediate peace, would send a dangerous message to other authoritarian regimes, suggesting that force can be rewarded with territorial concessions. This stance reflects the reality faced by millions of Ukrainians directly affected by the war, from infrastructure destruction to the loss of lives. The Ukrainian armed forces, which have fought resiliently against a well-equipped enemy, may see Trump's proposal as a setback to their efforts and sacrifices. Implementing a buffer zone that freezes current positions would mean that Russia retains the territorial gains achieved since 2022, something that Kyiv sees as wholly unacceptable. This could lead to increased internal pressure on Zelensky, from both military leaders and the public, to reject any agreement that does not fully restore Ukraine's territorial integrity. Many experts see this goal as unrealistic, given the current state of the conflict and the forces involved. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, be sure to subscribe now and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any updates.